ARL-44 is a French tank destroyer, or maybe heavy tank. Considering vehicle's characteristics, I don't see a difference anyway. The vehicle uses two types of ammunition: high explosive round that no one ever uses, and solid armor piercing capped. This one can penetrate up to 215mm of armor, which is one of the best penetrations compared to other 5.3 battle rating vehicles. At first I was concerned that I won't have enough post-penetration damage, since this round has no explosive filler. But eventually it proved to be quite effective, at least if you know where to shoot. Most of the time you will be able to one-shot opponents as long as you hit the center of the vehicle. Then 10kg projectile goes along the whole enemy tank and has enough force to knock all crew members out of the vehicle. And thanks to good penetration, you should be able to penetrate the center of mass for majority of opponents. The biggest issue will be much higher battle rating opponents with sloped frontal plates, such as Soviet T-44 or German Tigers, where the only place you can penetrate is turret. These vehicles will need at least a couple of shots to be destroyed. On the other hand, impenetrable frontal plate is not an issue when flanking, and even when shooting turret, there is always a chance for ammo rack detonation. So most of the time you won't have issues with the damage. And as long as you hit the middle of crew compartment, you can expect one-shots most of the time. The round even has big muzzle velocity of 1 km per second, which should help you to shoot accurately enough even at long ranges. The downside of this cannon is reload. With a screw, it's 10 seconds, around 50% longer than other tanks you will play against. So your accuracy is important not only to deal damage, but also because reload will not allow you to fire again for quite a long time, leaving a chance to your opponents to fight back. But only a chance, since this tank destroyer is quite well armored, pretty much like a heavy tank. In front it has huge, sloped 120mm thick armor plate, so the hull will be almost impenetrable for most of your enemies. Much more problematic is turret. Here, vehicle has an unangled 100mm plate or even only 60mm closer to cannon. Technically it's a weak spot, but practically you will still be protected from weaker guns, especially if you put all your bushes on the turret, hiding the 60mm area. Armor thickness on sides ranges from 60 to 30mm, and once again, the turret is the least protected area. That's where your armor will be penetrated most often. Though even after being shot, the vehicle usually survives. It has enough crew members, and most importantly, 2 of them are located in hull, which ensures that the vehicle is not destroyed even if everyone in turret gets knocked out. As long as you move together with allies who can protect you in case if you get critically damaged, it will be quite difficult to stop you. Even I survived until the end of a battle a few times. That must mean something. This vehicle has a turret, something that every heavy tank has, but not so usual among tank destroyers. It doesn't rotate very quickly, up to 15 degrees per second, but once again it's pretty much like any heavy tank. Guns depression is standard, minus 10 degrees. Enough to play comfortably, but playing hull down is not that beneficial since, as we already know, hull is the most protected part anyway. Mobility of this tank destroyer reminds me of something. It reminds me of heavy tanks mobility. The maximum speed is not high, only 37 kph, but at least the vehicle accelerates to this speed quite quickly, even when moving off-road, so it's not a very big deal. Unlike reverse, which is only 4 kph, it will be difficult to disengage behind cover if you were shot, especially since the vehicle doesn't have a smokescreen of any kind available. In arcade, The tank destroyer becomes a little bit more maneuverable and spins its turret faster, but felt a little worse in all other aspects. For example, aiming cross, that is supposed to help with ballistics or penetration, is not as useful to you because the vehicle has no problems with these things in the first place, unlike your opponents that will benefit from this mechanics more. But most importantly, it's much harder to one-shot opponents in arcade, since reducing crew members to 1 is not enough for tank to be considered destroyed. It's not always possible to place your solid armor piercing round in such a way that it would go through all opponent's crew members, and long reload makes it even more difficult to finish off already damaged opponents. Overall, ARL-44 performed worse in arcade. It is a game mode where you need APHE rounds to play comfortably. My experience with this vehicle was positive. I was using it just like any heavy tank, to slowly push forward until I end up on enemy respawn, or until my tank was destroyed, which is more likely. I would rate this tank destroyer 7 heavy tanks out of 10. It has good defensive capabilities because of armor and crew member placement, and at the same time good penetration for its battle rating. Maybe a bit lax in mobility or post-penetration damage, but it's not that far behind to become an issue.